Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at in this fine nation. My name is Todd DeVoe. I'm the host of Business Continuity Today. I am also the Director of Emergency Management at Titan HST, and I teach at the post-secondary level, and I love learning new things and sharing what I learn with you all. And today, well, there's a couple of things we're going to talk about, but mostly we're going to get into what New York State just did with Alyssa's law. It's a copycat law, if you will, from Florida's law, but we'll get into that in a second. Also, there are more laws that are being passed and rules that are being passed around the country when it comes to hotel workers as well, with very similar angles to personal safety wearable devices for alarms. But let's talk about Alyssa's law. So the passing of this legislation comes when schools and organizations are struggling with the shootings that have occurred. This law was based after the Florida shooting, and Florida State came quickly out and said, hey, we are going to pass, the state of Florida, I should say, we're going to pass this law regarding that you have to have panic alarm systems that are portable or wearable, right? And so, you know, other places have already had panic alarms, the ones that teachers could push or front administration could push a button on a desk. Things like that have been around for a while. But this one here is something that you wear. And so getting into what a panic button is. And so in essence, panic button is something that you can, in our case, with Titan HST, is a panic button, something that you wear, right? It's about the size of a business card, maybe a little bit bigger. You wear it around your neck, and if something occurs, you click the button, and they are able to locate where you're at and alarm that something is happening. The benefits of having a system in place is that anybody who has it, if they're working by themselves or students that are walking through the hallways or instructors or however you want to deploy it, is that it is where they go, right? So it isn't stuck in an office someplace. It isn't something you have to run to. You know, in the past, in colleges, we've seen, and probably mostly colleges, I don't know if I've seen them other places, but we've seen these poles that have a panic button associated with the pole. You push the button and then dispatch would know where you're at. But the problem is you have to get to that pole. In this case, it would be around the student's neck or around the administrator's neck, whoever that you're deploying it with. In some cases, it depends on what you're doing. You can actually have that alarm go directly to a dispatch center, like with the college that I was associated with before moving over to Titan HST. We had the ability to, when our students would push the button on our phone. In this case, we were using Titan HST's system on our phones, the app that comes along with it. And you push the button on the phone, it goes to dispatch, and it goes also to the officers, to the campus safety officers, so they're able to geolocate the student that's in distress, or the faculty member or staff that is in distress. They're able to get to that person in a timely manner. And this is basically what this is about, right? This is the solution that Alyssa's law is looking at, right? Whether it's the one in Florida and now in New York State. Now, what does this mean? Schools in New York State now have to have these devices, right? That's now the law is requiring that. In Florida, schools have to have these devices. This is a law that's requiring that. In the case of Los Angeles City, San Francisco, Sacramento, a few other states have it as well. I don't remember the states off the top of my head. California, San Diego cities, and then a few other states. I know Washington State has it. Nevada was looking at this, and although they've had agreements with the unions, housekeepers now in those areas are required to have a wearable alert device as well, right? That means that it can't be just a noisemaker. right? It has to be something that when they push it, they can geolocate them, and they'll have a general location of where they're at, such as the floor and block of rooms, right? If it's not down to the exact room they're in, to have hotel worker safety as anybody who is working by themselves, right? So mostly housekeepers, maintenance workers, people like that, anybody who has to be walking the hallways by themselves in some cases, night management who will do walking areas that they have to do, or in some cases, security officers as well. So anybody who's working by themselves has to have the ability to wear that or have that device that they can click onto and be located. These things are important because this is the information that's coming across from city government, from state governments, and also possibly looking at federal legislation as well, that you have to have some sort of alerting devices that are happening. George, excuse me. The reason why this is critical is that seconds count, right? Seconds count. When there's an emergency going down, whether it is not even an active shooter, let's just take that off the table right now, right? It can also be a medical emergency. That's what most of the ones that happened at the college I was at, there wasn't an active shooter happening. It was medical emergencies that were occurring, seizures, things like that were happening, to be able to geolocate that person to get help to them fast, right? So seconds count. So when you're looking at communication failure, it's not just the devices, right? Radio, phone not working because of, I live up in the hills, and there are times when my phone, certain areas of my house, my phone doesn't work. It's frustrating to people who I'm speaking to for sure. But could you imagine that during an emergency, right? Being in the wrong spot when you're trying to push that button. The thing is here is that also when you are saying words under stress, right, you might give the wrong location. Have you ever tried to dial a phone when you're upset about something, car accident, traffic collision, things like this? Do you remember the number to push, or sometimes the mistakes that you can make outside? So this also alleviates that area of saying, oh, and also if you have different words for where you're at, right? So for instance, like, say you have a parking lot that you call Egypt, right? But it's not the real term for that parking lot. If you're talking to somebody, say 911 on the phone, and they're like, what parking lot you're in? You're like, I'm in Egypt. They have no clue what that means, right? That's local vernacular, right? So, using that with a geolocation, it says, okay, this is exactly where you're at in that parking lot where the problem is happening. These are why this is important, right? We had a webinar, Titan HST had a webinar specifically talking about school safety, and the conversation got into understanding, like, when other officers are responding from other cities or even in their own city, they might not even understand what that building is like, with like how it is made up, what floors are what, what does it mean by the yellow wing, right? It might be painted yellow, but I don't understand what that means when you get to the school. And that was one of the things at my son's school is called, they had by color. Unless you know what color it is and which direction that is, you can get lost in that school pretty quickly. So having, again, these geolocations on your phone and also on your personal device is critical to saving lives. And this is the intent of Alyssa's Law, is to be able to have these wearable devices, right? So people can quickly push them when a crisis is occurring, or even to prevent a crisis. If they see something that just doesn't seem right, suspicious person, they're able to push this button. Now, take it one step further. If you're using Titan HST, and you have the app on your phone, you can actually take a photograph of that person or that situation, or a video for that matter, and send it to administration pretty quickly through the Titan HST app. And so instead of having like a weird description of a short, tall, blonde, dark-haired, long-haired, bald person, of whatever description this is, it's take a picture, get sent over there, and the campus safety officers or administration will automatically know who this suspicious person is. Now, it doesn't even have to be all used for bad stuff. There was working an event where we had a child who was missing, and the parents were able to give us the photograph of the child. We were able to put that out through the Titan HST system and find the child in minutes, compared to looking all over the place for them with a weird description again of, when I say weird, no matter what you say, do you know, for those of you that are working right now, do you know what your kid has put on in this morning? Probably not, right? My kids, I don't know what they're wearing because they're older and they choose their own clothing, right? So that's what I'm talking about, right? Having a perfect description, or at least a better description of what the person looks like, can save lives, and it has saved lives. The system has. And these are the things that are critical to having a proper system that works, to meet Alyssa's law, to meet the hotel safety requirements that are now coming out in states across the country. And this is what we're talking about. So if you are looking to have a safer system for your employees, please check out titanhst.com, and we'd be happy to give you guys a demo. Until next week, I hope you all stay safe and stay hydrated.